Today, we're going to be looking at the Grand Finals match between Lazuli and Nyam Gaming from OWCS Japan. Our subject is the tank player for Lazuli, who might also be the best tank player in all of Japan, and his name is... Leonopteryx, and you all thought someone's name was difficult. For the sake of simplicity, rather than using Leonopteryx, I will be calling him Leon. Besides having a name that I trip over every time, Leon is probably the most flexible and skillful tank in OWCS Japan. We'll only be looking at one of his tanks today, Junker Queen, but in the future, I hope to cover more matches from Japan in general. This map begins on Lijiang Gardens, a submap that, in the current meta, plays primarily for brawl compositions. At this period in time, teams hadn't fully figured out the meta, and were running Ramatra a majority of the time. Lazuli were different though. They were a team that were willing to experiment and deviate from the meta. Nyam Gaming roll out on a Ramatra composition, but they are running some comfort picks with the Soj and Genji. They aren't the most optimal choices, but Scarlet is particularly good at Genji, so Nyam are banking on that to get value. On the other hand, you have Lazuli on a Junker Queen composition. This JQ comp isn't normal though. You have a Symmetra-made DPS lineup that will excel at punishing both Dox on Ramatra, as well as Scarlet on Genji. You also have Sakuma on Ana, rather than Brig, to try and exploit the fact that Brig Juno as a backline has no solid defense against the anti-nade. Ramatra is also easier to sleep and nade than an Orisa, so this backline is extra effective against the Ramatra variant. Lazuli's composition is practically built to beat Nyam Gaming. Both teams are on brawl compositions, but Lazuli want to play very aggressive, while Nyam want to try and draw out the fight so that Scarlet in particular can find opportunities to place pressure onto Sakume's Ana. Lazuli's backline is flimsy and is a bit of a glass cannon, so when they meet Nyam Gaming in main during this first fight, Lazuli want to make the first move and define this fight. Leon wraps around the right side to avoid taking poke. Nyam decide to rotate towards the point to avoid taking a direct engagement, but Dox overstays. This allows Leon to land a knife, and Sakume also hits the sleep, which forces Nyam to turn back around in an attempt to save Dox. Lazuli want to burst Dox through his form, so Leon uses his axe, and Nevis walls Dox to prevent him from joining his team on their rotation towards point. Sakume only worsens Dox's situation with a quick nade, while Leon lands another knife, trying to keep him in place. A well-timed and placed speed ring from Ydot does allow Dox to escape, so now the fight is back to a neutral, with Nyam holding a slight positional advantage. Nyam make an interesting choice though, deciding to give up their advantage to try and win the fight fast. Daisy hits a rail shot onto Sakume, and when Scarlet sees this, the call is made for Nyam to advance and try and take the fight win. Lazuli's peel for Sakume is extremely effective. Shvi keeps him up, and Sakume hits an easy nade, with Hidden turning around to finish Scarlet off. While this is happening, Dox rushes at Lazuli's backline, so Leon uses his knife to pull him back. After Scarlet falls, Lazuli need to deal with Mimosa's Brig in the backline. Leon does try to go for Daisy as well, but prioritizes his life, playing things safe and slow. Sakume is placed under a bit of pressure, so Leon helps him out with his shout, kiting back towards the point while Nevis takes care of Daisy. The only one left is Dox, who Leon hits with the knife and axe, closing out this first fight. The first defensive fight for Lazuli is simple. They want to start a bit closer, but this isn't where they're going to take the fight. Leon will posture forwards, and Lazuli will get the poke that they need to continue to charge their ultimates, but the backline of Lazuli, particularly Sakume, will very quickly head to the back of the point. It is very difficult for Nyam to advance farther or take angles onto point, so this is an advantageous position that Lazuli can play off of until they find an opportunity to advance. Leon will hold down the choke while the rest of Lazuli plays a bit further back. Once Nyam have moved far enough forward, Shvi will use the orbital and Lazuli will hit the gas and go for a quick fight win. Leon lands a knife on Dox, and at the same moment, both Juno players drop the speed ring and all hell breaks loose. Dox is pulled in, antied, and then Leon hits him with the axe, resulting in a speedy death. The next target is Daisy, who used his slide to try and escape Hidden. Leon turns the corner, lands the knife, and with that, the fight is pretty much over. Scarlet does return and sends Hidden back to spawn out of spite, but Leon brings a quick end to Nyam's star Genji player, and Lazuli plan for the next fight. Lazuli have a different idea this time around, with the actual intended fight location shifting forward to the initial choke. Lazuli have a temporary ultimate advantage, and so they want to play first, and they want to play even faster. They also have Blizzard, which makes walking through chokes a lot more difficult for Nyam. Dox does attempt to walk through the main choke, but this wasn't a wise choice, as Nevis immediately walls him off and uses the Blizzard to lock him in place. Leon uses his axe to help clean up the kill, and although Nyam did attempt to use overclock from the left angle, it didn't really matter since Dox was dead in the water. Hidden does end up using the sim wall, but Lazuli are still happy with a 2-to-1 ult trade for a fight win, with the round entering final fight territory. Now, we will see one of the primary reasons why JQ can be so effective into Brig Juno Ram compositions: Rampage. Leon is set up close once again, and the plan is to take this fight so quickly that Nyam won't even have a chance to react. Sakame hits Leon with the nano, and he sends it with Rampage. Leon easily dispatches both Mimosa on Brig, as well as Y. on Juno. Nyam's backline is in shambles. Scarlet attempts to turn this fight around with a blade, but there's no chance for Nyam to survive in an extended fight, and so both Scarlet and Daisy fall, allowing Lazuli to win this round 100-0.
アルティメットは3つ上がります。アナイレーション、そしてナノブス早めにナノランページ3リヒット。さあレオノのゴッドランページ、オフライン会場でも炸裂。
いやーレオノプテリクスちょっとランページを毎回決めていくんですよね。ここ最近のレオノの調子は異常ですよ。そしてただスカーレット
試合の決定打となり得るようなランページを決めた。しかしスカーレット龍拳でのダブルキルオーバータイムギリギリで粘っておりましたが、これにてフィニッシュ。ナイトマーケットはラズリが1本取り返していきます。
That first round was impressive, but Nyam aren't about to give Lijiang away for free. Mimosa moves over to Kiriko to deal with the nades from Sakame, as well as Leon's Rampage. This should help Nyam both in the neutral and in ult fights. Lazuli also make a change to their composition, with Hidden going Junkrat? Lijiang Control Center, our next submap, is one of the only maps in the game where Junkrat could potentially be considered a viable choice. It's still questionable for sure, but Control Center has a lot of small chokes that are easy to spam, and the areas that you're fighting in are generally enclosed. Hidden's choice is still a little insane, but if you're going to pull out the Junkrat, this submap is the place to do it. Similar to last time, Nyam are trying to extend the fight, so rather than meeting Lazuli in the very enclosed server room, they are going to swing out wide onto point. This provides a solid position where Daisy can set up on Sojourn on the high ground, so Lazuli must shut this down quickly. Leon rotates through the left side, and Shviz throws a speed ring to send Leon to clear the high ground. With this rotation, Leon is able to find an initial kill onto Mimosa, but Nyam quickly trade by running down Lazuli's backline. Next, Leon wraps back around to the server room to assist Nevis, who's trying to fight Scarlet. He misses the knife but uses his shout and axe to chase and suppress the backline of Nyam. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to allow Lazuli to stabilize, and Nyam quickly re-engage, clearing Leon and taking the point. This fight doesn't end here though, as Scarlet oversteps, and Nevis is able to take him out. Mimosa also somehow dies to Hidden's Junkrat spam, so now Lazuli can look for a faster and more aggressive re-engage. Leon has returned, and Nyam back away, trying to play slow until they're back at full strength. Leon attempts to throw the knife at Daisy, who's controlling the high ground, but misses, so Nevis just casually walls him off while Lazuli switch their focus over to Dox on point. Dox does barely survive using his form, but that doesn't mean Nyam have stabilized. Sakame hits a nasty sleep onto Scarlet, and then he makes sure his silly Junkrat player is full HP before banishing Scarlet to the spawn room. Nyam are forced to give the flip to Lazuli, and must now try to take a 4v5. Sakame antis Dox, who quickly falls, and Leon is left to clean up, first dealing with Daisy's Sojourn, and then Mimosa on Kiriko. Similar to the previous round, now that Nevis has the Blizzard, Lazuli will hold the closer choke and play a much more aggressive fight. Nyam opened this fight with an Orbital and Overclock, and Nevis responds with a Blizzard as expected. Shvi also matches the Orbital to make the fight even. Leon first places pressure onto Dox, stopping him from advancing any further. Once Nevis throws the Blizzard, Leon briefly turns to mark Scarlet, who had gone for a flank to try and pressure Lazuli's backline, and then Leon turns back around, and this is where he makes his play. He turns to the side and runs the Rampage through the entirety of Nyam, with Mimosa just barely saving himself as well as Daisy with the Suzu. Both Dox and Y. did not receive the Suzu, so they die shortly after the Rampage. Leon ducks his head for a moment so that he can get shout, and then he turns to face Daisy, who he eliminates with the knife. Scarlet is finally able to put an end to Leon's hero play, and so Lazuli must reset. Honestly, if it hadn't been for Mimosa holding the Suzu and using it at the correct time, Leon probably would have won this fight off of the Rampage. One change does occur before this next fight, with Daisy moving over to Ashe, but that isn't too important. Lazuli initially advances through the server room, and Nevis uses a wall to split Nyam. Rather than allowing Lazuli to continue to advance, Nyam immediately hit the gas and used Annihilation to run straight back at Lazuli's backline. Lazuli kite away, and then something unbelievable happens.
ニャムがただこれはちょっとヒデンのリップタイヤが
アナイレーションに対してはファイアインザウォールあー炸裂した
これはもうニャムは耐えられないかいやただドックス返しちゃいるけど
I don't think that needs too much analysis. Hidden simply landed the tire, and with that, the fight ended. Next fight, Scarlet has Blade for Nyam, and Sakame has Nano for Lazuli. Only one ultimate for each team. This also means that both teams are going to be relatively cautious, and both teams just play through main at a slower pace. Something unexpected does happen though. Mimosa thought he was sneaky by going for a nice little flank, but Hidden just hits the goob mine, and suddenly Nyam are down one. Hidden then realizes that that was a little unfair, so he walks into Scarlet and allows him to trade. What a gentleman. Dox then runs at Nevis, and he's unable to react. And although Sakame was able to trade Scarlet, it didn't really matter. Dox crosses the map and eliminates Sakame, putting an end to this fight. Leon did his best in the backline to try and find a trade, but he isn't able to find any exit picks this time. After this fight, Hidden also drops the Junkrat for Tracer, which is an interesting and unconventional choice. Tracer is better against Kiriko Juno than Brig Juno though, so it has some merit. We are in final fight territory, and Lazuli take the same approach as last time, initially rotating through the server room and walling Nyam. Dox instantly hits the gas to try and reach Lazuli's backline, so Leon does the best he can to pull him away. Although Dox punches through, it doesn't really matter. Wydot uses the orbital to attempt to pressure Lazuli's backline, but Lazuli not only match orbital, they use Blizzard to force Nyam to abandon their own orbital. And with that, Lazuli take this final fight on Lijiang Control Center.
再び運命を切り開くことができるか風切り龍拳
や出たー今のはスリープうまく跳ね返したが
ナノブーストでギリギリ守り続けてはいた
ギリギリ守っている
スリープをはね返された作目が C に対してナノを回してフォーカスを歪めました
素晴らしいナノブーストです。しかもここはディレイキル決まってしまったのでさあどうだタッチはサイドから見えている
スカーレットトレーサーが触れるかどうかいやブリンクじゃない触れるか触
触
っ
ったよく触った
さあ触れさえすれば
もう一度触れるか
アナイレーションがあるいやーしかし触ることは叶わない
触れなかったこれはもう限界でしたね
That's all I've got for this video. This particular performance from Leon was impressive, and I hope to see more from him in the future. Japan is the fastest developing region right now, and it has a lot of potential going forward. I'll do my best to get a few more videos out before Stockholm, so stay tuned, and make sure to check out the Discord for notifications, and join my coffee for early video access. I'll see you next time.